birthday, I live in a dream. I live in a
dream. Welcome to Only Trying to Help, the podcast where we try to help you be helpful to other people. My name is Kate Watson, and Ravi's back. So, folks, you might remember Ravi from our episodes on divorce. And also, we did one on how our roles within families can shift and change. And that was a really interesting one for me. Ravi, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Kate?
I'm good. I said to you when we got onto this call here that I think you're the first person I'm speaking to today. So I'm wondering if I have morning voice, but it's probably good on a recording, like that little grogginess.
Absolutely. It's always interesting when you kind of acknowledge or recognize that you do have the morning voice. Because sometimes I've been on a call and I forget, and I'm like, oops. So definitely helpful to talk through a little bit.
I'm so glad that you're back with us today. I had messaged you a little while ago and said, hey, do you want to come back on the show? I have this idea about acceptance and kind of talking through what it means to just accept people in our lives. We use phrases like through thick and thin, or, for better or worse, or
Yep, yep.
whatever, however you want to describe it. But, maybe accepting people as flawed, imperfect folks in our lives. And you so graciously agreed. So thank you for that. I might kick us off just by sharing a quick story, which maybe will, help us travel down this road together. But actually, I'm not sure it's a story. It's kind of like a list of a common story that I get. But the common thing that happens is I'll get phone calls or text messages from people in my life, and they will say, my sister is doing X, Y, or Z. What should I do? Or, my brother is going to get fired from his job. What should I do? Or my mother is nagging the grandchildren. How do I handle this? And what they do is they present me with a person in their life who is flawed in some way. And they ask me what to do about it. And
Right.
sometimes I just respond with, well, there's probably a lot of options for things you could do. And one of those options is just to accept this person as flawed and keep it moving, like keep loving them anyway.
Mm. And I would wonder what their response is when you share that, because I'm kind of chuckling a little bit, uh, because very often when people ask that question, they're looking for that light switch on or off, right? They're looking for either cut them off or accept them for who they are, and nothing in between. So I love that you share that there are many options.
I agree with you. I smiled when you said that light switch, like they're looking for on or off. I think I might describe the light switch differently. I think they're looking for how do I either fix this person or cut them off? That
Yes.
those are the options. Either they have to get better or we're done here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot in the middle, which, might look different.
The fix word, the fix is the behavior, the action that they are presenting to me. I want that different. So I have every right to try and help them fix them, because it will change things. So fascinating.
It's something that just keeps coming up. I mean, we've been doing this podcast for how many years, and we're over 100 episodes, and it's like a theme that just keeps rising to the top, which is we're trying to fix other people.
Yeah.
And I know some folks find it liberating to realize maybe there's nothing to fix. Maybe I'm missing out on time that I could just be enjoying these people in my life,
Mhm.
and maybe having a little chuckle at some of their idiosyncrasies and slightly annoying habits, but rather than trying to fix them, I could actually just continue enjoying the folks who are imperfect, as we all are.
Yeah. And isn't that wild that what you're describing kind of turns the action onto the
Yeah.
person that's asking for the help, right? versus the person that they want to fix. Maybe the reflection needs to be, well, how can I handle this different? Or how can I shift some of my beliefs so that I'm able to experience acceptance, experience unconditional love, and
Mhm.
show this person that regardless of what they are doing, and obviously there's a big range within that. People are probably thinking, well, I have my boundaries, I have my limits. You can't just walk all over me. But within the greater context of the conversation, being with somebody for where they're at.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
You're right, Ravi. I'm sure a lot of people are listening and starting to conjure up like what would be immediately unacceptable to them. Like that, I think that's a common response to this. Like, well, but what about someone who's hurting me? Or what about someone who's hurting my children? Or what about someone who's breaking the law? And
Mhm.
what if, what if, what if? Yes, I'm sure there's a long list of what ifs we could go through. And certainly there are lines that get crossed.
Yes.
We're not really suggesting that you have to accept everybody in the whole world. I think what I'm suggesting is there are people you love who you want to keep. You want them in your life, I think. And you might not accept some of their behaviors, but you could still accept them, and that there's a difference there.
I love what you're describing, Kate, because what I'm hearing is that you are inviting people to separate the action and the behavior from the person. Be intentional to say, um, not that you're a bad person, but the behavior that you did was bad. And we do that for children, and language is intentional and important. And then we fast forward to adulthood when we're in relationships with different dynamics, and it's not always easy to do that.
No, I mean, I think somehow we've fooled ourselves into thinking our job is to go around deciding who's good and bad, and that there's this expectation we only keep the good ones. My gosh. I
Right.
mean, I say this to you as someone who is my friend. If I discarded everyone who was flawed, I'm not sure I'd have a lot of friends left.
Right? And of course you want to surround yourself with love, and you want to surround yourself with people that you believe in and that you trust. And also there's a level of control if we're pushing away people that may not align with some of the behaviors or actions that we would do, because um, it's the ability to take a step back and to reflect on ourselves is so important.
Yeah. Yeah, I read somewhere, I don't get credit for this and I'm not sure who does, but I read the desire to fix another person is active avoidance of the neglected self. Do you
Ooh,
know who said that? I don't know who said that.
don't, but I just felt that. I
Yeah,
just, that's
yeah,
everyone. And
yeah.
yeah, I hear that for sure. For sure.
So, sometimes when I'm trying to help people understand this idea, and they're bringing to me, like my boyfriend does this thing that I hate, whatever it is,
Yeah.
I might say, okay, so the question is this behavior, not behavior, is this person someone who you can accept? And they're like, well, I love him. Okay. So you love him, you want to be with this person. Now let's look at the behavior. Is the behavior something that you can tolerate or accept? And very often people will say, no, not really. Okay. Is it something that the person can change and is willing to change? And if the answer is no, then the question is back to you. What will you do now that you are loving a person who has a behavior that you dislike strongly and they are either unwilling or unable to change it? That is a decision to make. And I still think it's not a quick decision of stay or leave. I think it's often like, all right, well, I guess I need to give myself some time and figure out what I want to do with this. Because again, I'd really hate to see us discarding everyone in our lives who is maybe making decisions that we don't agree with. I'm afraid I would live a very lonely life if I let go of everyone whose behavior was unacceptable to me. I might even go so far as to argue I am better. I am a better person for surrounding myself with kind of complicated people
Yes.
who aren't perfect. They're good for me.
Yeah, yeah. And I wonder to take it a step further from what you're describing about the negotiation of whether this behavior is something that you're willing to accept or tolerate or whatever that word is. Um, the step further might be having a conversation with the person to better understand what their behavior is, what is the driving force behind their behavior. And it could quite possibly, there are sometimes, not always, that uh, just with a deeper conversation of not so much that's not what I meant, but when I do this, this is what I mean. And we've heard about the love languages, and we've heard about different ways in which people express their emotions and their feelings, sometimes through actions, sometimes through words. But taking that step, which I think very often uh, we're we're hesitant to do that because we don't want to appear as though we're judgy or that we're controlling or that we're upset with the person. So we tend to just let it go, but then have all these feelings inside. So inviting the conversation of, hey, when your person does this, um, maybe just having a conversation. Can we talk a little bit about this? And where that would take two people.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Always a good reminder to, explore, learn more before jumping to conclusions. And you said something really interesting. You said, we might be afraid that we come across judgy. I do think people are afraid that they may come across judgy. And I think on like the other side of the spectrum, people are afraid of coming across like a doormat or
Mm,
I'm letting everything go. I'm letting someone walk all over me. I'm not standing up for myself. I'm weak. And I think if you believe that those are your only two options, that
yeah,
you're either a weak person or a judgmental person,
right.
well, yikes, like these aren't great options to have.
Yeah, and I find that there's a bit of a scale, right? So you ever, we know that the phrase my scale is tipped, or I'm tipping the scale, because when we're quiet about something, the scale kind of raises up to one side, and then we don't say anything, and the scale raises up again. So in our head, and this is something I've been very intentional to try not to do, is the concept of keeping score, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna I've let five or six things go. I've let them go by, and now enough is enough, right? So that, coming back to what you said about that whole doormat, or I don't want to be a good soldier and just do what I should be doing, because I don't want to create discord, but because you probably have a score in your head, or you probably have a scale that's tipped over. So starting off early with conversations, and starting off early with those negotiations, versus just, oh, it's fine, I'm good, I'm fine, because eventually that will just add up and add up and add up. And that's what my experience is. That's when people have reached the boiling point, or the
Yeah.
scale has tipped.
Yeah. Your analogy is great that thinking about the scale and how things weigh on us is important. Um, and I think that that'll resonate with a lot of people who probably are in their lives sitting there feeling like, I'm just gonna, grin and bear it. I'm just gonna deal with this one again. The idea that I'm trying to promote is not that you suffer in silence and cross your arms and say, well, I let another one go. I hope they're happy. The idea I'm trying to promote is you might have a person in your life who's, I don't know, let's make up an example. They're lying to their boss, and you think that's bad. They shouldn't be lying to their boss. It's bad behavior. But you might just say, you know what? So this person and I, we go back way, 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 like to childhood. This person's my good friend. I love them dearly. I don't really agree with what they're doing at work, but it also has like nothing to do with me, and I could just love them anyway. And it kind of brings up the idea of what about helping people you love feel safe to be imperfect around you? That
Ooh.
was
So creating safety with someone. So
like
that,
that it's okay to make a mistake with me. It's okay to tell me when you're doing something that maybe you're a little ashamed of. I think this is something I think about a lot. Like when I look at my friend group, I'm imagining a group of people who I hope feel comfortable telling me their dirty laundry, the things they're not proud of, the things they know were kind of wrong. I would be honored if a friend came to me and said, I've really screwed up and I want to tell you. I would be honored that they want to tell me about that. And so I think about like, is it my job to make that safe for people?
So I was just thinking as you're talking, is how do we create safety and who's responsible for it, right? So I love that you just asked the question, is it my job? And that's that's one that I guess it really depends on your perspective of what safety looks like and who's responsible, because um, it's a dynamic, right? It's usually happens within two people or a group of people, and there are some people that might lead a little bit, and some people that might be a little followers, but ultimately, safety, in my perspective, has to do with multiple people participating.
Yeah. Yeah. You just said, and we keep coming back to this idea of like it's holding up the mirror. Very often when we're focused on other people, there's something about that other person that is triggering something in us. And maybe, and I'm only thinking of this now, but maybe part of the reason I care so much about flawed people being accepted is that I think I've gone through a lot of my life wishing that I could make mistakes and it would be okay, or that like there was someone I could tell that I did a bad thing. And I'm not sure, especially in childhood, I'm certain I did not have that person who I could say, like, uh-oh, I
Yeah,
did something really bad.
right.
I definitely did not have a person I could say that to. And I think as I've grown older, I've been searching for that person who I
Mm,
could go to and say, I've really screwed up and like still be loved and accepted and uncherished and still have value and not be thrown away. And
yeah,
maybe that's why I work so hard to be that person for others.
yeah, yeah. That's such a great point, Kate, because we typically are, uh, our experiences from childhood and our experiences as a young adult, and even our experiences from last week kind of shape us, and they kind of drive how we're going to likely interact with the next person, right? So we have our core values, but for anyone that's has this isn't a movie plug, but Ins Inside and Out just came
Yeah.
out, part
Yeah.
two. And the concept of the movie is you have your core memories, and your core memories will then create your like core value and who you are. And the memories can either be positive, they can be negative, they can be a mix of everything. And sometimes we don't have a choice of what we uh, remember. We might have some memories in our head, but I strongly believe that it we need to honor and acknowledge the experiences that we had, and also recognize that we can use them to guide us, and also we can shift from them. So we're not
Mhm.
necessarily always, and that's an easy thing to say. We're not, connected to our memories or our experiences, but they're there, and we respect and we honor them. And also, uh, the hope is that they're not as controlling as we sometimes, as sometimes they are. Mm.
Yeah, I mean, and in this case, I don't mind it because I think it's shaping what I want to offer the world, something that I wasn't offered.
Yes.
And so it's like a painful thing that I think is making me better now. And I'll tell you how it comes up, Ravi, and I think you'll appreciate this as a parent. Sometimes my friends who are parents will say to me, "Oh, but my daughter is involved in all this drama at school, and it's mean girl stuff, and they're talking about each other." And my friends are all upset about this, and I will often say to them, "How do you know about it? Like, how did this get on your radar?" And they'll say, "Well, my daughter told me." And I go, "Your daughter told you this? Like, your daughter trusted you enough to share all of this with you?" And they look at me like, well, yeah. And I go, I never in a million years would have shared this with a parent when I
Right.
was 12 years old. Like, never in a million years would I've come home and been like, I need to share all of my 12-year-old drama with
Right.
you. And I think what a win as a parent that you've created the kind of relationship with your child that they will come home from school and tell you that they were talking about someone else and now it's caused a problem and now they're fighting with their friends. And that's a kind of safety that I think parents should wear as a badge of honor. And I guess I try to offer that to my friends as well. That when they call me and say, "Oh, I did something stupid," that I think
Mm,
to myself, wow, I'm so honored you told me. Like, you didn't have to tell me. You could have, hidden that in the closet forever.
yeah.
But you shared it because you knew I wouldn't judge.
Mhm. Absolutely. So being that person, I love that. Being that person that maybe we didn't have last week, last month, or when we were a kid, is just it's so valuable because as you said, the safety is there, and what we're doing is we're kind of like inviting people to just be who they are, and it kind of comes back down to the acceptance, right? Like, I'm going to accept you for um, whatever you're comfortable with sharing, and if there are some small things or big things that you're sharing with me, that's the process right there. And also, it's an ongoing process because you're likely responding in a way that they want to continue to talk, right? Because we've all had moments where I'm sure some of you listening might have started to share something with someone, and then they go into lecture, or they go into, they want to correct the behavior, or I would have done it differently. And then in my experience, that's an immediate, like, the switch is off for me. I shut down and I'm like, all right, I'm good, because the safety's not there.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's really well said. Um, and of course, I mean, I know we're going to cram this in the last couple of minutes that we have, but of course, there are things that become unacceptable that, do cross a boundary or cross a line. And they
Absolutely.
don't even have to be extreme. Like, I'm not even going all the way to like, okay, your friend has now murdered someone. Like, that's extreme.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that extreme. I can think of I'll even, I don't know, I guess say former friend, but someone who I used to spend time with who was a flawed person. And I spent, dinner after dinner after dinner just trying to like love and accept this person. And I realized one day I'm working too hard at this one. It
Yeah.
is exhausting. I don't walk away feeling better or like kinder or more loving. I walk away feeling empty and drained. And I eventually thought to myself, I just don't think this person is good for me.
Mm.
And I put some very intentional space between us. And after putting that very intentional space between us, I don't even hear from this person anymore. So I think it was kind of like, rather than the very dramatic cutting you off, it was kind of like a slow drift apart.
Mm.
And I'm grateful for that drift apart. I don't think I want that person in my life. And the line wasn't like, again, they murdered someone. It wasn't that
Yeah.
serious.
Yeah, of
It was
course.
more like, I just don't think this one's good for me. I have other friends. It's okay.
So if I may, what I heard, which is I think is just beautiful, is that you're creating safety for yourself, right? Because we just talked about how you can create safety for someone and invite someone to feel safe enough to share. And on the flip side, when whether it's your body or your soul or something is not right for you, you can have boundaries, and you can make sure that you're feeling safe with the people that are surrounding you. So it works both ways. It comes
Yeah.
back to the mirror. Oh my God.
Oh, we're so good.
We have all the answers.
Well, it's why we do this because we know everything.
Oh wow.
Oh, yeah. Well, I honestly, I think this was helpful for me to talk out. my favorite podcasts are the ones where like I think it's going to go one direction and it goes a totally different direction. And so I'm just really appreciative that you rejoined me for this one. Thanks, Ravi.
Absolutely. Thanks for always having me. And yeah, I think that that might be a theme for us is we start going in one direction and it's great though. It actually works out really, really well. So I always appreciate having the chance to come out and chat with you and especially with these these topics are just they're so important and it's just great to be part of the conversation. So thank you for having me.
Take me in your arms. I don't want to miss a day without you. Let's stay young forever. There is nothing we can't do. And nothing can break us apart when we're together. Facing the sky, we know that we can fly on the wings of love. And we can climb on every mountain top. I never knew eternity was real till I met you. Since that day, I live in a dream.